Welcome back to our live stream book club, Forever Young Adult, Reading for Fun and Reading for Life. This week, I want to assure our listeners and readers that the members of this book club do not just waste time reading silly young adult literature. No readers waste time reading. Even if it is just young adult literature, reading anything makes you smarter. Reading any book can turn you into a reader, and no single book has a predetermined correct way to be interpreted. Every reader makes their own meaning from a book and has their own experience of the book. So during school closure, some of you may have heard of teachers who are still pushing students to read some of the core required text or praising the classics, and the opportunity cost of that is a lost reader. Some student decided all reading sucked because of that required text. Some student decided she was stupid because she didn't see the same things in the story as the teacher so plainly pointed out to the students, and some student decided he was not a reader just because the book did not interest him. He didn't think there's something wrong with that book. He said, there must be something wrong with me. So our book club says, enough of that bullshit. It's also the time of year where eager college professors and teachers of next year's students send emails with summer reading lists or required all school reads. Sometimes that stuff is fun. I love community reading. I love book club sharing, but please do not tell people that the purpose of your required title is to foster a love of reading. The goal of these required texts is to push a common understanding, maybe create a common conversation, and this falls into a category of cultural literacy, not the growing or spreading of the love of literature. Cultural literacy is not without value, but it is about controlling the narrative of whose stories are important or what books are worth reading and who can really claim to be a reader. If you want to grow a love of literature, you might just start by asking your students, what do you like to read and why? And then let them not only read whatever they want, but also validate their choices, connect to those students, listen to their choices, learn about the kids, use that as a way to guide them to other stories and other books that might accelerate their emerging reader identity. So if what I'm saying to you resonates in your gut, that's good, because it's also backed up by a large variety of research. And someday our book club might start to post some smart writings to you to back up that fact that forever young adult readers know the secrets to the universe. In the meantime, any book will get you there. And tonight you may find something you like as you hear about books in several genres: realistic, fantasy, dystopian, adventure. There's always time to read a book you love. So for the first option tonight, I'm going to turn you over to my friend Amanda.
Hey everyone, thanks Heather, that was very well said. Our first book tonight comes from one of my favorite authors, Neal Shusterman. This is a book that he wrote with his son Jared and himself, called Dry. Dry is incredibly scary and you can't put it down because it's so good. Dry takes place in Southern California, where the area has run out of water, and so there's no water anywhere, and the National Guard can't come in because of some other national disasters on the other side of the country, and so kind of the people in Southern California are on their own to figure it out. And it follows Alyssa and her brother Garrett, whose parents go out to get them fresh water and don't return, so they're kind of on their own, checking out this new world, trying to find their parents, trying to figure it out, and you don't realize how important water is and how essential it is to every moment of your life until you don't have it. And so Dry is just an amazingly scary, wonderful book that keeps you thinking. And that's what I have. So I'm going to pass it over to Deborah. Thanks, guys.
Hi guys, Deborah Kincaid here, and I am going to even try to show you the book that I read. I don't have it, it's in my classroom, go figure. So let me see if I can share this screen with you. Hold on just a second. Whoops. La, 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 la. Well, oh, hold on. So this is the book that I want to talk about. It was written by Peter Beagle. The name of the book is Tamsin. And I picked this book up just because the cover looked kind of interesting at a library sale. So it's not a new book. It came out in the 90s, actually. It's old, but it's incredibly good. And it's about a teenager whose name is Jenny. She's moody, go figure. She's not happy with herself. She lives in New York with her mom and her cat. Mom is divorced. Dad is divorced. There's 2 sets of new parents coming in because mom now has decided to get married. And unfortunately, mom getting married means that she's going to move Jenny to a remote farm, an old farm in England, which is where the new husband comes from. So not only does Jenny have to leave New York, but she has to go to this farm on the other side of nowhere. She has new stepbrothers. She has a new stepfather. She is totally not happy. So the move is awful, and the house, to boot, seems to be a little bit haunted. Jenny does manage to make one friend at school who is an Indian girl, Meena, and her cat, Mr. Cat, also makes a friend. He finds another cat to hang out with, but this cat turns out to be a ghost. She's a ghost cat, and she leads Jenny to meet her owner, who is also a ghost, and that's Tamsin. Tamsin was a girl who lived in this farm 300 years ago, was killed violently, and has not been able to leave the earthly plane because she has not been able to face the facts of her death. So along with the cat and the ghost, Tamsin, there's a whole raft of supernatural creatures. There's boggarts and black dogs and pukas and all kinds of creatures in this book. And all of them lead Jenny to help Tamsin discover what really happened to her and save her, because if she can't, then her soul is trapped at this farm forever. So I loved the novel. I thought, I'm gonna come back. I thought the characters were incredible. It's a little bit of a high reading level. So if you have struggling readers, it's a little bit high for them. It's written at like a Lexile over 1,000, but the author writes beautifully and the ending is very satisfying. So check it out. And I'm going to pass it over to Steve.
Hi, Steve Pinzone here. And the inner kid in me is always going to love comics. And so I'm just going to talk about another graphic novel this week. Middle School is Hard Enough Without Being the New Kid. This is by Jerry Kraft. And it's the story of Jordan Banks, who is an aspiring cartoonist. He likes to doodle and draw cartoons and little comic strips and things. So I can relate to that. I can relate to being a new kid in situations and feeling like an outsider. But this Jordan Banks story, it's sharp, it's funny, it's intelligent. It's him being torn between 2 worlds because his parents send him to, for middle school, in his 7th grade year, they send him to this prestigious private school known for its academics. So he's a little disappointed because it's more academic focused and not arts focused, because he wanted to go to an art school, and he finds out that he's one of the only few students of color at this school. So it's a story of him being the new kid, him struggling with his identity and those cultures, like, you know, he's leaving behind his friends from his neighborhood and then trying to assimilate to and navigate the new culture of middle school and a school like this, where, so I think it does a very intelligent, authentic job of, at the middle school level, and for a kid like Jordan Banks, making him relatable, but dealing with, you know, those issues of race and identity and stuff that kids face. And it's just, of course, well drawn, just a fun read, and just a good new voice in young adult comics. All right, that's all I got. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather. Go ahead.
All right. Hello. I'm Heather, and I'm sharing my screen because I have lent this book out, like so many of us do, and I don't have it. So I also think you can like the cover of Goodbye Days, the book on my right that I'm going to talk about tonight, and I also think the author is kind of cute, and I like his other book, Serpent King. So there it is. This is a story about friendship, Goodbye Days by Jeff Zentner. It's a story about friendship, loss, love, punishment, and healing. And in true Jeff Zentner style, he brings you some of the most realistic characters, and they remind you of people that you know in your real life. So if you're looking for a new best friend, I think you should read one of his books. You meet Carver at the start of Goodbye Days. He's a part of a best friend crew of high school boys, and this is realistic fiction. The crew took a summer drive to another town to watch a movie, but Carver had to stay and work. So he's anxious for the return. He sends a group text, hey, where are you guys? Text me back. And when his friend driving the car with his other two best friends opens his phone to read the text, he doesn't see the semi in front of them on the freeway has come to a halt, and they crash into it and instantly kill all three boys. So this story starts with Carver going to 3 funerals before his senior year, and the reactions from the families and communities vary. One family wants to press charges, homicide. He knew what he was doing, sending the text message. He knew the kid was driving. He knew driving and texting was dangerous, so he should face charges. But another family, the grandmother, is more forgiving, but she's one of his friends, and she demands a goodbye day. She says, I want a day with you, Carver, doing all the things I would have done with my grandson, and if he were alive, so you're going to do those things with me. So they get up early, they have breakfast, they go fishing, and they talk a lot. So the word spreads, and the other families say they want their goodbye days too. And so he learns a lot about their families. They learn a lot from him. And I'm sorry, every time I book talk this book, I practiced 3 times and I still cry. So I love it. I love the stories that make me cry. I love to join these worlds of other people. I love to see different ways of loving, different ways of withholding judgment, healing. And I love to be immersed in realistic fiction that proves to us what we know, that life is complicated, life is messy. And these characters, his books take place in Tennessee, but it could be your own town too. So I really recommend you consider Goodbye Days by Jeff Zentner or his first book, Serpent King, and be prepared to ugly cry. And now I turn it over to Katie so that she can tell you about Adrian's Choice.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm not Adrienne Royce. Our lovely Adrienne is at her school's drive-by graduation today, or drive-through celebration to the seniors. So we pre-recorded her book talks. Let me pull up my screen for you so we can see what she's got to say about the books that she chose to talk about today. All right. The first book is Nights of Everybody Have by Andrew Dennis. The first book Okay, so we're apparently having some technical difficulties with presenting that from Adrienne. So I can post that on our website, sites.google.com/aps.edu/foreverya. So you can hear about her books as well as the ones that we talked about in tonight's recording as well. Hooray for living in a world of technology. We love a good learning curve here at the Forever Young Adult Book Club. So we'll move on. We're going to talk about my book. My name is Katie, and I chose to talk about another graphic novel, jumping on Steve Pinzone's bandwagon. It is a novel called Cursed. written by Thomas Wheeler and illustrated by the renowned world famous artist Frank Miller. You will probably recognize Frank Miller's name best from Sin City, the large comic series, which was adapted into 2 separate movies as well. So Cursed is a King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table retelling. The main character's name is Nimue. Nimue lives in a village and is somehow, she doesn't know how she's connected to dark magic in her village, but she is. And it is terrifying to the villagers that she lives with. They fear her, they don't understand her. And so she just sort of lives her life trying to adapt to having people being fearful of her. When she's a kid, her village is entirely burned down by this radical group called the Red Paladins. They're the big bad of this story. Nimue's family and her parents, she loses everybody in this village fire. And so her mom has charged her with returning this magical sword to a famous sorcerer named Merlin. So Nimue heads out on this journey to find Merlin and reunite the sword with him at her mother's dying request. Along the way, she runs into several classic Arthur characters. I don't want to tell you many of them because it'll be a spoiler for you, but she does run into this charming, handsome mercenary whose name is Arthur. So they trek across England. They try to track down Merlin. They're met at every turn with natural obstacles like bad weather and rocky terrain, and they're met with the leader of this Red Paladins group who is hell-bent on getting rid of magic and people who practice magic altogether. And so do they succeed? Do we find Merlin? You should check out this book. Cursed, Frank Miller, Thomas Wheeler. And this book looks really massive and it looks really intimidating, but it's not. Most of this book is graphic panels from Frank Miller illustrating along the way the story written by Thomas Wheeler. And I just wanted to show you guys this one. It's so good. This is a picture of Nimue. She's the main character in the story, and it's classic Frank Miller art. So if you are a comic book fan, this will be super fun for you to delve into. If you've never read a comic book before, this is a nice balance, I think, between text and pictures. It will help, it will serve you, it will entertain you, and you will learn some more, a different side of the King Arthur legend. Speaking of King Arthur legends, Misty is also going to jump on that bandwagon, so I'm going to pass it on over to her.
Hello, everybody. Katie, thanks for that. I did want to say that in case you have Netflix, that the series of that is supposed to start on Netflix, I think this summer. So there's an article that Adrian actually sent out today. So I'll post that to the website so that y'all can check it out. It's interesting to look at the characters to kind of get if you've read the book, to get a feel. But since Katie talked about King Arthur, I thought I would talk about some of my King Arthur retellings. And so I wanted to start with this. It is Once and Future. And this came out last year, probably last year sometime. And it is a King Arthur retelling, except it does a gender bend of King Arthur, because King Arthur actually, this starts out as a science fiction book, because this is generations into our future. And what's happened is that we are now living like in space and on planets, and we have colonies on the moon. And King Arthur has actually been reincarnated. He's on his 42nd reincarnation. And he is reincarnated into the body of Ari Helix. And Ari discovers through the help of Merlin, who shows up, that she is actually a reincarnation of Arthur, and she gets Excalibur. And what you find out is that her friends, her cadre of friends, are actually, they are Guinevere, Lancelot, Percival. There's all different types of King Arthur characters in it. What Ari does is she's fighting against the evil corporation of the Mercer Corporation. And the Mercer Corporation is like that all-seeing, they have everything, control of everything. So what happens is Ari and her group want to fight the Mercer Corporation. They start it in this book, and it comes to a little bit of an ending, but then there is a sequel that just came out. And this is called Sword in the Stars, and it's actually just a duology, so it's only 2 books to read, not like a 7-book series that seems to be the case for some. So Sword in the Stars actually takes a little bit of a different twist, because Ari is sent back into the past, actually to Camelot. And so their job is to get the chalice from King Arthur because it holds special powers. And Ari and her group, Gwen, Percival, Merlin, they're all in there. And it's kind of cool because with this gender bend of King Arthur, similar to what Katie was talking about, with Excalibur and different character taking Excalibur, this series, this duology, actually, a lot of the characters are LGBTQ characters. There are transgender characters. There are non-binary characters. There are gay characters, and it's interesting. It took me a little bit because it's so very different than a King Arthur story, but I love it. I love mythology. I love King Arthur and so forth. So those were the 2, and they are by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. These 2, again, first, second. But then, because I'm an overachiever, there is another book that is a King Arthur retelling, but it's told from the perspective of Guinevere. And if anybody's read Kirsten White, Amanda talked about Slayer. I think I talked about the Elizabeth Lavenza, the Frankenstein retelling. Well, this is a Guinevere retelling. And I don't know how many are going to be in the series, but I think it's November, the sequel to this one comes out. And this is the story of Guinevere, who, if you're not familiar with Guinevere, she is the love interest of King Arthur and creates the love triangle, one of the first love triangles in literature between Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot. But Guinevere, in this book, she has a secret because she's actually a changeling. And that's not a huge secret because it tells you in the flyleaf that she's a changeling. So you still have a lot of surprises in the book. But Guinevere, she has to pass herself off, but we're not quite sure what her role is. I loved it. I think Kirsten White does a great job of showing a female's perspective from these classic stories, like King Arthur with Guinevere, also showing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, some very strong females, and Elizabeth Lavenza. And she also has another series, a Paranormalcy series, that I believe that Heather Dahl absolutely adores. So these were our King Arthur retellings. They're not the only ones. There are others, but these are the ones that we have personally read. And so now, am I giving it to Amanda? Okay, just checking. All right, so we're going to close out for tonight. I just want to say thanks for coming to our book talks. Don't forget to check out our website. I am going to try to do this screen share so that you can see our website, just to remind you of what our website is. It is Forever Young Adult, and it has a massive website, but I'm going to just show it, and it is sites.google.com/aps.edu/forever-ya/home. So that is our website. And Heather mentioned that on our website, we might be posting some articles, and we will. This is what the website looks like. It has our reading list. So if you haven't explored it, you should definitely take a look. It has our reading list of the books that we've read. It also has, you can contact us. It has our email address. It has the recorded streams of our past book talks. And it has a book recommendations page where for the book recommendations, you can tell us what you think we should read. We will go through the book recommendations and we'll share them to the website so that you get a feeling for what everyone is sharing, what they think are the best books. And if you want to know more about us and you haven't checked it out yet, we have our book club bios. And there'll be some things changing in the next couple of weeks to the website. So do come back to check it out. Next week, it'll be our last of the school year. But don't worry, we're going to continue. We'll keep going throughout the summer, except we're probably going to do every other week just because it's summer vacation. We have worked really hard this year. We need to be off. So for summer vacation, from June and July, we're going to do every other week starting June 4th. And for June 4th, we're going to start off with June being Pride Month with some LGBTQ books. So stay tuned for that in June. Next week, to finish out our year, what we're going to do is we're going to share some of our favorite series with you. That way you can get a jump on your summer reading. Because like Heather said earlier, read what you want to read. Yes, those teachers, pesky English teachers especially, will assign books. And they will help you with your cultural literacy and help you to seem like you are literate or you know what happened in a book. But it doesn't build a reader. Building a reader, for you to be a reader, you have to read what you like. That's one of the things about our book club too. We all really like young adult literature. And as you can see, there's some depth to young adult literature. And so if you happen to have to read Steinbeck's Tales of King Arthur throughout school next year, maybe think back to Cursed. Maybe think back to the Guinevere Deception. If you have to read Frankenstein, maybe find a retelling. So there's things to do to find something that's going to pull you in. Also, next week, we're going to be changing our streaming link so that you can stream the book talks without having to worry about being on an APS email account. So tune in next week. Check the website. It should still be showing. It's on the home page. It has the streaming link, but you can see the homepage and it'll have the new streaming link because we're going to move it away from APS and put it into a different format. But we're still going to be streaming those books for you. So if you need us, contact us. If you have any questions, contact us. If you have suggestions, contact us. And if everybody else, if you have anything to say or share, jump on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Good night, everyone.